He scored! Oh my God! Can you believe it? Johnny Bench is tying it up. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series in 4 straight. It was a sweep.
In the dirt, it's a wild pitch. Here comes Foster. The Reds win the pennant.
Perkins won the game.
That ball is fair. Cincinnati's ahead. 2 games to none.
Welcome Joe Aranda to Cincinnati. Adam Dunn has done it again. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Marty, yes. This is Adam from Milwaukee. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Do you think Scott Hatteberg's a good player?
Dunn up there with the bases loaded, the outfield deep and around toward right, and the 1-0 on the way to the plate. Swung on, long drive, right field, and this one belongs to the Reds.
And a high drive, hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club.
Benson's first home run is a walk-off winner. That ball had a family.
And De La Cruz is, oh my goodness, look at this kid run. My, oh my, that is a triple.
Matt McClain's first big league bomb.
Spencer Steer's first big league hit is a home run to straightaway center field. Joey Votto's done it again.
The pitch. Votto swings high in the air. Right field. Yes! He pointed to the dugout to say, I told you. That is Joey Votto's 315th career go-ahead ribby. Only Johnny Bench had more as a Red.
And I can't tell you how much it means to play in front of everyone here in Cincinnati as a Red. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. So thank you. Thank you.
I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive. Left center field. Racing back to the line. Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did! He did! Red win! Win! Line into right field. Genius, the first Red ever with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Does it have a chance? The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed the no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to a career of Trey Bruce.
Just go ahead and get this out of the way.
Clean it off, buddy. Clean it off.
Yeah, it's like the old Nintendo 64. I don't know if you had that console, but this is what you had to do from time to time when the game sat around for too long, you know?
That's right.
Okay.
Oh, he's doing a chaser? You brought out the chaser for it?
Yeah,
too?
I'm getting too old for this.
Man.
I'm getting too old for this.
Wow.
I'm sorry. If it's a letdown for some, that's just what it's going to have to be when you get old like me. If you think I'm ripping that thing for more than a couple seconds without a chaser, you're in bad luck. So I'll tell you what, fireballs mean one thing and one thing only. The Reds have won a series, and they didn't just win a series, Craig. They found a way to sweep a series, something that they've done a couple times this year, and they've yet to have that happen to them. Now, I'm saying that with knocking on wood. But I was thinking today, Craig, I'm going to call you Nick like 3 or 4 times because that's just what I do on every show, Craig.
Used to it. Yep, we're used to it.
I was thinking today, like, this team feels disgusting at times. I don't understand how you could look as bad as they have, and then you turn around and you play a weekend where, and they've done this multiple times, every single time that this damn baseball team has me down and out. And I mean, when I say out, I'm just looking forward to possibly maybe watching the young guys play a little bit, trying to figure out what moves you make next offseason to get yourself back into a competent spot. They come reeling me back in, all the way back in. Now, am I there yet? Not quite. Not quite. But I'm damn close, largely because of health. We'll get to that in just a minute. But they've not gotten swept, and they've swept a couple teams, and they've lost series, but they've made it up by sweeping teams. So they find themselves now sitting in a spot where they're not dead. They're not dead. And Craig, I don't know what what we make of this weekend. I'm sure we have a whole show to talk about it, but just another massive Saturday, really. And then you finally kind of cap off some momentum here on Sunday with come from behind win.
Yeah, well, you have a disappointing series against the Brewers yet again at home, lose that series for whatever it is, some ridiculous number now. And the Diamondbacks are not a bad team. They're kind of meddling this year, but they're a team that for the last couple of years now you've been challenging with for wild card spots. So again, they were sitting at 500 coming into this series. The Reds at 3 games under 500, an opportunity to kind of switch that around. And the Reds did exactly what they needed to do. And you mentioned health. That was certainly a big part of it. I think when you look at that lineup and we talk about guys like Austin Hayes potentially coming back on Tuesday or Wednesday was the report today during the game. It just elongates this lineup even more and makes it even more dangerous. And then if Jeimer Candelario can be even kind of somewhat
competent,
competent. Yeah. Thanks for the input there. Yeah. I mean, if you can get anything out of Jeimer Candelario with the rest of the lineup, if they can play to their potential, the Reds still have a chance. I know that we kind of get in this mood where we're like, oh my God, the season's over. And then we get completely the opposite direction. We're like, we're back in. But the truth of the matter is that with the Reds lineup the way that it is, there is a chance that they can work their way back into playoff contention, and it starts with the sweep of the Arizona Diamondbacks.
That it does. And to be very clear, I think that the real hope, if there is one, is that you don't need a great offense. You don't need one. We've not needed one all year long. All we're asking for is an offense that stays somewhat consistent, doesn't go in week-long dry spells, and can find a way to etch out 3 or 4 runs when maybe you don't have that many guys playing all that well. That's the formula. I'm sure we'll get into that and more here in just a bit, but before we do, as always, we will I'll turn the reins over from Nick to you, Craig. I know that now here's the thing. I just want to get ahead of this. You've been coached up by Nick. Nick's probably watching. He's going to be taking notes on a night like tonight. He's going to be making sure that you're dotting your I's and you're crossing your T's. I don't know if you have a stopwatch in front of you or what kind of directives he gave to you, but you got the box score recap coming up, and he did say, let's try not to make this thing like a novel. Let's keep it shorter than the Old Testament, if you don't mind, Craig.
I'll do my best. Luckily, it was only 6 runs in this game.
Okay.
So hopefully I can keep it respectable. I've got my notes here. I did the updated graphic. Let's see if I can do it right and bring that up as the overlay. Look at that.
Big
professional
league.
Right
Go
here.
for it. The box score recap presented by Craig Sandlin. Nobody better.
Reds and Diamondbacks met on Sunday for the final game of a 3-game set. Zach Gallen took the mound for the D-backs while the Reds turned to Brady Singer. D-backs got on the board first with a solo home run for Eugenio Suarez in the top of the second. Then in the third, they extended that lead to 2-0 on an RBI single from Corbin Carroll, scoring Alek Thomas. The Reds would get both runs back via solo home runs in the fourth and the fifth. First, CES crushed a home run for the 3rd straight game in the 4th inning. Then Jose Trevino tied the game in the 5th with a solo shot of his own. Brady Singer would go 5 innings, give up 5 hits and just 2 runs on 3 walks and 3 strikeouts before a 31-minute rain delay ended his day before the top of the 6th. In the 7th, after the first 2 batters were retired, Jake Fraley would hit a single to right field. Then Matt McClain jumps on an 0-1 slider, crushing a 2-run home run to left field, giving the Reds a 4-2 lead. The Reds bullpen would extend their streak of 11 straight innings pitched without giving up a run, as Scott Barlow, Taylor Rogers, and Tony Santillan combined to throw 4 perfect innings, giving the Reds a 4-2 win in the series sweep. The Reds now sit at 500 with a record of 33-33.
All right, and we do have a deep drive of the day, right? I mean, it's none other, I'm assuming, than Christian Encarnacion-Strand, but you're going to go with Matt McClain. You know, that's the cool thing about the DSC deep drive of the deep drive of the day.
Well, it's not. Listen,
when you actually have multiple home runs, there's options. Yeah. You don't get options. You don't get options on this show very often. I mean, listen, Matt McClain deserves it. Matt McClain deserves it. I got to tell you, Matt McClain does deserve it. It's not that I forgot about it. It's just that I didn't know I didn't know how far the ball went, and we were going with the deepest drive. But I'll take the 104 off the bat. 381 feet for Matt McClain. That's his 7th of the year. That would also score Jake Fraley and Matt McClain, giving the Reds a 4-2 lead. They would go on to win with the 87% win probability at the time, and as we all know, it would wind up being 100%. DSC, they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. And thank you to John for sponsoring a segment that sometimes is sparse. Tonight, not so much. Craig, this is the story. This is the story. It is and will always be these young guys and the infielders that we were hopeful for to have as the quote-unquote core. It's quite literally the thing that has to happen for this team to be what we want them to be. CES, for all intents and purposes, has had a small stint with the Reds where you've seen good baseball. You've seen the type of power that you were excited about in AAA, and he's just not been healthy long enough, Craig, for us to kind of see what perhaps he's capable of doing. I don't know how long he's going to be healthy for this time. I don't want to jinx it, but boy, oh boy, when you have a healthy McClain and you have a healthy CES and you have a healthy Elly and hopefully here at some point, a healthy Marte, although interesting enough, which maybe is another kind of segue here with CES, it's not just the power right now, which is awesome, which gives this lineup a whole new look. I think it's the fact that he can play third base or be somewhat competent at third base. I guess that's the word of the night, is competent. If he can be just average at third base, it does wonders for this baseball team, and I think it can stretch the lineup out. I don't know kind of what you make the biggest deal about what CES did this weekend, but I was excited to see him play third base.
Well, I think the biggest deal is for sure the bat. I mean, regardless of the third base position, I think this Reds offense specifically was anemic and needed that kind of injection into the offensive power in the way that Christian Encarnacion-Strand has done so far. In his 3 games back now, again, the 3 home runs in 3 straight days, I mean, you have to be happy with what you're seeing out of that. I agree that him being able to play third base, especially with Jeimer Candelario being a complete question mark, is a huge upgrade. And it won't go down in the box score, obviously, because it was a foul ball. But the play that he made on that line shot down the third base line where he dove and kind of stopped that grounder before it got to the outfield just shows that maybe he is, in fact, actually able to play third base, which I think many of us, including myself, were questioning when we saw the lineup of him playing at third base after only really getting 1 start there in the rehab assignment. There was some nerves about whether or not that was really going to be the best move. Was Spencer Steer destined to be a DH or move him somewhere else? Was CES going to be a platoon guy and have to figure it out with first base? If he can play third base and you can kind of work that lineup between him, Steer, Candelario when he comes back, even Noelvi Marte, Candelario being a switch hitter, if he can be competent, like we were saying at the top, gives you that flexibility to put your best lineup out there every single night, which is something that this Reds team has not been able to do for many, many weeks. I know that ultimately Santiago Espinal is probably your best defensive third baseman, but this team needs offense and it needs power. We've lost way too many games, 1-0, 2-0. You've seen it already in the 3 games back. CES is a huge injection into this offense, and third base is certainly a benefit. But if he can hit the power that he's had, I mean, that home run today barely looked like he was swinging, Trace. Yeah. And they poked it out of there. So I mean, I don't think there's any question. He's by far the most dangerous hitter that this Reds team has in their entire organization right now. And for him to be able to contribute the way he has this week coming back is a huge boost. And we saw it with the sweep. I think it was obviously the biggest contributor to the sweep.
Well, I think that, it was glossed over because of the rain delay, and then the carries over the next day where you have a whole new, what feels like a different baseball game. But CES doesn't homer on Friday night. You don't even win that game. I don't know if people kind of remember that or not, but that game's getting canceled. I mean, or you're not playing it, and it's already a complete game. You're moving on to the next day. You've lost the game one of a series. Hell, I guess we could have broken the streak. That would have been a positive, but I'd much rather have the sweep than try to break the streak. I'm not a poet, and I definitely don't know it. But my point in saying that is, like, I just think that when you're capable of putting CES at third, what it allows you to do is start to play some guys at positions that you feel comfortable with that allow you to extend the lineup. And I know Candelario is going to get a bad rap when he first comes up here because of the way he started the year and the way he's been, quite frankly, for the Reds since he's gotten here outside of 1 month. But Candelario's got to find somewhere to play. If Marte comes back, what do you do with him? And if you do put him at third base, then what do you do with Spencer Steer? It's not a problem. Let me be very clear. I'm not suggesting this is a problem. It's a good thing to have multiple options in different areas on being able to play certain guys or not. We've gone far too long this baseball season where you look at the bench, Craig, and you think to yourself, I don't really like anybody that we have as options coming off the bench in a late spot to hit. So, there's no real issue here. It's just the flexibility that CES would provide the Reds if he's capable of playing third base is a really big deal. And time's still out on that. The jury is still out whether or not he can do it and do it well enough to kind of be able to put him out there on a regular basis. The
biggest thing in the word that you just used is flexibility. I mean, the word is flexibility, right? So you've got an opportunity now. If it wasn't for CES being able to play third, you'd be relegated to have him at first base. And you'd have to figure out what to do then with Spencer Steer. You'd have to think about what to do with Jeimer Candelario. Right. Santiago Espinal obviously not providing a whole lot of power either in this lineup, even though he brings defensive prowess.
Lux is moved out of the DH to have to probably go somewhere else, and then that makes you, does Will Benson then does not really play at all anymore? It's the hole. It's the hole that existed for a while from a offensive production standpoint, because Espinal against right-handed pitching has been, he's been what he is. He's not very good.
Well, and in the chat, they're talking about CES can't DH because Lux is everyday DH, but Lux should not be in the lineup against a left-handed pitcher, like, period. Right. So right off the bat, if you're facing a lefty, you now have the flexibility to take Lux out of the DH role and put CES there. Yep. You can bat Steer and potentially Candy. You can put Espinal in there.
Espinal's probably going to go to third. Yep.
So again, it's just the flexibility. So I agree. Lux right now has been your everyday DH, but that's not the solution. That's not what you intended for Gavin Lux to be for this Reds team in 2025. So the fact that he's had to do that is more of an indication of how bad this roster has been conducted so far this year, or how badly injuries have really hurt this roster is maybe the better way to put it. Right. Versus now we can have Gavin Lux as your DH when you realistically should be DHing him, which is just against right-handed pitching. And when we have a left-handed pitcher going up against the Reds, Gavin Lux can be on the bench and be platooned just like he should be. The biggest question for me, and I texted with Nick about this a little bit too, is, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but Hayes is coming back here in the next couple days is the reports. Then you potentially have Candy coming back in the next week or so. They're going to have to make some decisions on this roster. We already had the blowback from people who are upset about the Austin Wins DFA. Ultimately, he had 7 at-bats in the last month plus, so I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But ultimately, the next decision is Connor Joe on the chopping block? Is Hampson on the chopping block? Yeah. Do they send Benson back to Louisville to be able to get more consistent at-bats again? What do they do there? And that'll be the question. I have to believe that it's something like a Hampson DFA, but again, I just don't know. Connor Joe being optioned to AAA, maybe, since Hayes is an outfielder. There's a lot of options, and this front office and Tito are going to have to figure out how they manage those injuries coming back. And again, not rush back guys like Jeimer Candelario, who haven't really shown a whole lot at the major league level the last 2 years.
Well, I hope we understand why we're scoring runs right now. And I get that the bunt base hit by McClain was a great play, and it was. And I'm not taking anything away from it. And I like you know what I do like about Tito is I think that he uses opportunities through the media to kind of give guys credit for things that perhaps he doesn't get a chance to do to the public. Like he's not just going to randomly bring up that McClain made a great play. But you know when Charlie Goldsmith in the press conferences asks Tito, you know, outside the home runs, what stands out, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I know he said that was the play of the game, but I don't know if he truly believes that behind closed doors.
Yeah.
I would like to think that the Gavin Lux grand slam would be a pretty big deal. My point in saying this is I hope we don't lose sight of the fact that we're hitting the ball over the fence, and that is a very, very, very different path and a different look than to what we've seen when this team has struggled. I don't care who hits them. But on a nightly basis, if I can look up and down the lineup and see 7 or 8 guys in the lineup that has a chance to run into one, it gives me a lot of confidence that we're not going to continue to find ourselves losing 2-1 or 1-0. And if we end up losing 4-3 or something like that, I can almost survive the 1-run losses when you lose in that capacity. I can't do many more of the 1-0 varieties or the 2-1 varieties because it just feels like you have too good of a staff, which is really what gives me hope. At the end of the day, the fact that this pitching staff and the bullpen continues to throw the ball the way they do, you know, you can convince me that we can kind of Frankenstein this lineup together with a bunch of hodgepodge guys that might not have good numbers by the end of the season, but their power numbers are good enough collectively over the course of the year that it adds up to make a offense that finishes maybe midway through the pack or on the not dead last, but top 20 offenses in baseball. And if you give me a top 15 offense in baseball or a round of 15 to 20 offense, I think this team still has a chance. Time will tell. McClain, I am hesitant to claim anybody is back because this team has already proven when you try to do such a thing, you can get run over the very next day and they could go scoreless the next 5 days and you feel like you're right back to square one. But I think collectively, as bad as he was playing, you started to worry for sure, and I was worrying because he didn't look himself. But I always knew he wasn't this bad. You know, he's shown that he's a decent player, and it's nice to see him maybe get back on track. Anything to add with McClain before we jump forward?
Well, he had a game this series. I mean, obviously the home run today is the biggest potential indicator that maybe he's turning the page. Obviously the bunt last night, probably not a huge indicator that things are changing in terms of his approach at the plate. But again, what Barry Larkin and John Sadak were talking about on the broadcast today, some of those little hits can give a guy a little bit more confidence at the plate, right? So he gets a bunt hit last night. He's now got a hitting streak of 3 straight games. He's got hits in 4 of his last 5. Maybe he can kind of get it going. And you saw obviously today, he ends up with that home run, that 2-run home run that gives the Reds the lead and ultimately the win. How much of that can you say was related to that bunt last night? I don't know. Probably not a whole lot. But when I look at Matt McClain and I feel like today was his first 2-hit game since May 25th, I'm going to have a little bit of optimism. I'm going to refrain from saying he's back like you, but he hadn't been really hitting with a whole lot of power. And so to see him hit one out of the park for the first time again since May 15th was his last home run. I mean, I think that's got to be a good sign. And again, talk about flexibility and having to figure pieces out. If you don't have to worry about the middle infield, which we already know you're not worrying about Elly, if you don't have to worry about McClain, except for maybe a spot here and there, feels a whole lot better than us second guessing whether or not McClain should be on the major league roster like we have for the last 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy about it. I'm going to reserve judgment, but yeah, McClain hitting the longest ball of the day today. I chose to go with him for the deep drive of the game. It wasn't the longest drive of the game, 381 feet, but 104 miles an hour off the bat. We'll take it off of Matt McClain.
Well, Matt McClain has continued to play pretty excellent defense. I don't know when the narrative came out or why the narrative ever came out that he wasn't playing very good defense. Sometimes I do scratch my head at kind of where these things come from. He's played good defense all year long. Yeah, I mean, he's not perfect. He's going to have a game or two maybe where he makes an error. But he's always done a good job defensively. And I guess we're at a point now where if McClain can kind of turn the corner, I think it starts to make this lineup not dangerous, but I definitely think it gives us some real firepower that we have not had all year long. All right. Jumping towards kind of the back half of this whole thing, 988, you can text and or call day or night. Please also remember that mantherapy.org is a valuable resource. You can always visit that 24/7. Text and or call 988 24/7. It's anonymous, and you can always obviously reach out to friends that you know may need some help in time of crisis, so you have that number handy. It's okay to not be okay. Craig, I think there's a lot of different things I think that are maybe interesting to discuss. Let's just give some kudos to the pitching staff. They've continued to do what they've done since they've started the season, which is give this team a chance to win. I think even Gavin Lux had made mention that it feels like this team's about to get hot, and he had referenced the fact that their starting pitching and their pitching in general, their bullpen has given them a chance to win each and every single night. It's just a matter of this offensive getting going. I don't really have a whole lot to add on the staff's front. Had a lot of things, family perspective, birthday parties, stuff like that going on this weekend. So I didn't really get a chance to lock in like I do sometimes during the weekdays, pitch by pitch by pitch. Anything that you want to add from a pitching perspective before we jump into maybe the biggest topic of the night with Chase Burns?
Yeah, and we'll have to get to some Sutra chats. I know we've had
we'll do that
come
next
in as well. Just real quick on the pitching. Obviously, Brady Singer had a little bit of a scare there in the fourth inning on a line drive off of Lourdes Gurriel that hit him in the back of the arm. Ended up pitching another 1 1/3 innings. Looked okay. Hopefully he stays okay and is able to make his next start. We don't have any issues there. But the bullpen today, 4 innings of perfect baseball. Scott Barlow, who I know has had struggles at time and has been leaned on to pitch a lot at times. Taylor Rogers looked probably better than he's looked all year today. I know a lot of people were talking about his performance. He went 2 innings of perfect baseball, struck out 3. So we'll take that for sure. Having him out of the bullpen as a lefty certainly gives you a lot of abilities there. And then obviously finally Tony Santillan comes in to nail down the save in the 9th. Him being able to kind of come into big leverage moments is important, and being able to fill in for Emilio Pagán and kind of fill that role that maybe you would hope Luis May could fill. Tony Santillan is a guy that has been a little bit underappreciated, I think, 100%. And certainly appreciate him getting that save tonight. So want to call it out. Certainly want to give them the props that they're due on that bullpen. 11 straight innings now from this bullpen without giving up a run against the Diamondbacks this series. So we'll take it. And certainly if that bullpen can continue to perform at this level, it's performed much better than I think many of us expected them to perform coming into this season. So if they can continue to perform, then we're definitely going to be in a position at least to be able to compete come the end of the year.
Santillan also made it relatively clean in the 9th. It's something that, far too often in my Reds fandom, that's not been the case. And really the bullpen as a whole, there wasn't really too many kind of lucky positions that they found themselves getting out of, right? Like it's one thing to throw a scoreless inning, but you load the bases with nobody out. You get a hard line drive right at somebody, then you get a hard ground ball for a double play. That just wasn't the case. So super chats, here we go. Jacob Doyle says CES has been much more patient this time around. Yes, listen, let's shower CES with a bunch of praise, but let's also say that we need to give this guy we need some durability, and we need some consistency. Maybe not the consistency that he's put off, this past series where he's hitting a home run every single series. Clearly, that's not going to happen. But it'd be nice to see him continue to move forward. And yes, pitch selection hopefully is a part of that process. Dunny17 has been he's been a wins kind of guy right from the rip, and I understand why. When a guy hits about 400 all year long, gets 5 plate appearances a month, yet still delivers time and time and time again. He says, what the Reds did to Wins is very dirty. I'm sad. Listen, it's part of the business. It's unfortunate for Wins. Hopefully he can find a place in Oakland, and I guess it's by the way of Oakland, I mean Sacramento or wherever the hell that team's playing now. I don't know how much cash we're getting back for Austin Wynns, but it should be enough to basically power a city. That said, I don't think they did him dirty. I think that it was just an unfortunate situation that kind of reared its ugly head. And unfortunately, meritocracy did not take place for Austin Wynns in Major League Baseball. He is the last man on the roster type situation. And really the only thing Austin Wynns could have happened for him, Craig, and I'm not saying this is what we would want to have happened, but it would have taken a season-long injury from a catcher. It would have taken, like, you know, either Trevino or Stevenson being out the entire year for him to be able to, in my opinion, stick. Otherwise, you're always going to be the third leg. You're always going to be the guy that's going to get kicked to the curb because you're just not part of their future, and you don't have enough numbers from your career to bode the confidence of the front office that you're going to keep up what you've shown. So that's what happened. Donnie Miller.
I knocked on wood. I knocked on wood real quick, Trace, because
I know.
I agree with you. Obviously, I think a season-ending injury to a catcher would have obviously changed the outcome here. But heaven forbid one of the catchers goes down now, because your depth chart at the catching
terrible
position is not good. So obviously, we knock on wood. We hope that everybody stays healthy. But heaven forbid you have to go to AAA. You're looking at Eric Yang and Will Banfield as your AAA catchers. And I know a lot of people are high on Will Banfield, but he has not performed at the AAA level this year. He struggled immensely all year at Louisville. So if something were to happen, knock on wood, this Reds depth at the catching position is not deep.
I think Nick Krall, and I have faith that this would happen. I could be wrong. I think Nick Krall hopefully he calls the Athletics back up and says, hey, I can give you this cash back and a little bit more. We need him back. And we'll see. I don't know if that's the case, but we shall. Let's hope we never find out because we don't need to worry about it. Donnie Miller says CES returns hotter than Skyline at midnight. Serve D-backs the old three-way. Smothered, covered, and swept. Don't let Matt get hot. That's a good little super
Skyline
Donnie.
or Waffle House.
I don't know, man. White Castle, maybe. That's what I think's hot.
We appreciate the super chat nonetheless.
Hot at midnight. Shout out to all the free ads we're
maybe
giving
you're going
here.
to the Clifton Skyline. Is the Clifton Skyline still 24/7? I don't know.
No idea, man. You're asking the wrong guy. Aaron Amlin says nothing. Thank you for the super chat, Aaron. I don't know if you meant to say something. If you did, you can write it in all caps in the chat, and I'll see if I can't round back out to that and find it. Bryce said, I love when baseball goes far. I didn't mess that up. That's actually what it says. I love when baseball goes far. McClain, Jose, and CES. That's how you win games when ball goes far. Hashtag ATOBTTR. Yes, Bryce. Home runs are good. RD711 says, and this sweep belongs to who? Belongs to the Reds. That's who it belongs to. And you know what? I was going to bring this up with CES. I decided to wait just a second because I had something. Maybe I could bring it up later. Steer for Gold Glove. Chris Ackerman. Steer has played an excellent first base defensively from a fielding perspective. He has. He really, really has. Receiving the baseball, I don't think is a very strong suit for Steer. I don't think that he's digging balls out of the dirt at a clip that I would like him to earlier this year. To be fair to him, to be very clear, this isn't a knock against Steer. He's just not had a lot of experience over there. And I'm not trying to be rude, but his size is what it is. You can't fix that. There's nothing he can do to fix that, but he's not a very big guy. His wingspan, his catch radius is not very big. So should you be able to hit him in the chest? Sure. Would I like my infielders to always make a perfect throw over there? Yes. Are there going to be times where you throw a ball a little bit high, and unfortunately Spencer Steer has to jump because he's shorter? He's going to have to jump. I'm not saying I can't stand that, but sometimes that is like, well, this is why this guy didn't grow up playing first base, is because there's clearly areas that are a little deficient. But he's played an excellent first base. He has. So shout out to Spencer Steer. As far as the Gold Glove goes, I don't know. We'll see. Aquila the Great. Hopefully I say that right. Aquila the Great says, we think they benched Wins so he doesn't come off the high and... Man, I'm going to try to read this. We think they benched Wins so he doesn't come off the high and tried to shop him around advertising 390 hitter. Also, amazing what power does to a team with a power-loving ballpark. Yeah, it is. As far as them not playing him because they wanted to advertise they had a 390 hitter, no. Because, unfortunately, those other general managers also have Baseball Reference. They also can go on to Fangraphs. They also have what we would like to call some metrics that are capable of showcasing that he's probably not a 390 hitter. But I don't think that they played him because I think that it just felt like it was unfair to him. And I know this sounds crazy, but I think some of it is just like it's a little bit of scared about the what do you do if he just, which I know sounds stupid, and maybe I'm crazy for saying this out loud. But what if Austin Wynns just kept hitting a home run every other game? Like, you can't. At some point, he was not a part of their plan. I'm just saying, they knew they were going to have to let him go, in my opinion, based off the roster management that they were currently had. And you could argue that they could have found someone else. And trust me, Garrett Hampson or Connor Joe, trust me, we could have a conversation about getting rid of someone else outside of Austin Wynns. But I just don't think Tito wanted to carry three catchers. I don't. And I think they just decided, you know what, he's just not going to play. Unless it's an emergency, he's not going to play.
They reportedly gave him reps in practice and in warm-ups at first base to see if maybe he could be a fill-in there or an option there. My guess is that he just didn't show any sort of ability to field a ground ball and probably ended up forcing the Reds' hands in that nature. But yeah, I mean, you can't keep three catchers. It was kind of crazy that they kept him for a month after Ty Steve came back, if we're being honest. So, look, I put it out there on social media too that I was a little surprised that they held on to him for as long as they did. Ultimately, I don't know if the Reds' position changed on Austin Wynns because they needed to make a move in order to add CES back onto the roster, or if somebody else's, aka the Athletics, their position changed and they decided they were willing to give somebody up or cash up in order to bring Austin Wynns in. We don't know how that all went down. Maybe the Reds were shopping him for the last month and nobody was willing to because, like you mentioned, they also have Baseball Reference. But it is unfortunate. Obviously, once he got DFA'd, it was kind of unwritten that you knew he was gone, even though I kind of was holding out hope that he'd be back in a Louisville Bats uniform for a little while, just in case as a security measure. But couldn't have optioned him. I saw Nate just mention that. He had no options left, so you had to DFA him. Obviously, if you got to a point where he had an option to come back in terms of signing a contract, an MILB contract, then that would have been fine. But I mean, at his age, my guess is that he was looking to continue to play at the major league level. So anybody that's willing to give him a shot was going to have a shot.
Speaking of the Bats, moving on to what is some pretty prominent news. Chase Burns is getting called up. He's headed to Louisville. How long he's going to be in Louisville, time will tell. I have said, and I'll continue to say, that kid is a big leaguer. He's been a big leaguer, maybe, in my opinion, since spring training. I'm not saying that he should have made the roster. I'm not saying that is a bad move by handling him the way that they did. But he was a minimum. He's a min amongst boys, if you want to call it that, pitching at the levels that he's pitched at. Okay, sending Chase Burns to Dayton is almost kind of laugh out loud funny to me. He then goes to Chattanooga. He does the same thing there. My expectation, he's going to go to Louisville and he's going to have some success. Will he have the same success he's had in Chattanooga? I don't know. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to just look at the stuff that he has, the pedigree that he stands upon. He's the number one pitching prospect in Major League Baseball. People want to sit here and say, well, he's not Paul Skeens. I heard Charlie Goldsmith the other day, and I'm not. I love Charlie. That's why I bring him up by name. He's suggesting, well, he's not like Paul Skeens. What do you mean? I mean, with all due respect, what do you mean when you say those things? just because Paul Skeens had what, like a higher notoriety because he dated Livy Dunn. He's got more social following. Like I'm confused because I guess what I'm saying is like pitch for pitch, what I see with my eyes. And I'm not suggesting that Chase Burns got to come in and do exactly what Paul Skeens does. But at this point in their careers, you can't sit here and tell me that Chase Burns is significantly different than Paul Skeens. They look like somewhat of the same guy. The last thing I'm going to say about Chase Burns is to get called up. If this team is serious about winning and they think they have a chance to win, the way that I view Chase Burns is that there's a time limit on this arm. I'm not trying to make that scary. I'm not trying to be negative towards this whole thing, but I have watched baseball long enough, and we've all seen the type of arms that look like this and what eventually happens. Will it happen within year 1, 2, 5, 7, 9, 10? I don't know. But I'm willing to bet that there's going to be some arm problems for Chase Burns at some point in his career. Hopefully it's well down the line in his second thing. But all I'm saying is I'm not here, and I'm not interested, Craig, into letting this kid figure it out and make sure he's ready in the minor leagues and him pitch all year in the minor leagues, and then next year he's got to start in the minor leagues again just because we want him to be quote-unquote ready. I'm just going to throw it out there. He's ready to go. If you need him tomorrow, you put him in the big leagues. That's how I feel about him.
Well, first of all, I don't know what it is with you and mentioning injuries tonight, Trace, but we got to cut that out.
Well, I think it's smart. I think it's smart. I think you can get ahead of it. I just think that if you can bring it up, you're not saying it's going to happen, but if you bring it up, maybe you navigate around that.
Well, look. So here's the deal: Chase Burns, 11 starts between High A and Double A Chattanooga. 11 starts, 1.68 ERA, 0.75 WHIP, 38.3% K rate, 4.6 walk rate. Took in his last outing, he took a perfect game into the sixth, 2 outs before giving up his first hit of the game. For reference, since this is the reference that people want to make, Paul Skeens made 7 starts at AAA for the Pittsburgh Pirates last year before being called up. 0.99 ERA, 0.91 WHIP, 42.9 K rate, and 7.6 walk rate. So is Chase Burns exactly Paul Skeens? Is Paul Skeens exactly Chase Burns? No. But at the end of the day, when you have a pitcher like Chase Burns, and I'm with you, it feels like wasted pitches every pitch that he makes in the minor leagues. And I think that's what you're trying to say, is that at this point, this guy is projected to be a major leaguer. He's ready to be a major leaguer. He started for 4 years in college at Wake Forest. It's not like he's a high schooler who needs to fine tune his talents. He's ready to go. The ultimately, this Reds team, though, we've seen cares about service time. They care about contracts. They care about money. And I think ultimately that's probably what this comes down to. Yeah. I will say Chase Burns is 8 months younger than Paul Skeens. So, there's no reason that he couldn't be pitching in the major leagues right now. But if a lot of people are going to want to reference Wade Miley, and Wade Miley making a start tomorrow or Monday, depending on when you're listening to this, against Cleveland, when you have Chase Burns ready to go in the minor leagues. The question becomes, okay, let's say you bring up Chase Burns instead of Wade Miley. What happens when Hunter Greene comes back? You've got options at that point. Do you send Chase Burns back to AAA? Do you send Nick Martinez to the bullpen? That's ultimately what this comes down to is, are you, as the Cincinnati Reds, going to burn a year of service time and potentially change his projected contracts over time with arbitration and everything else to call him up for a couple starts before Hunter Greene comes back in hopefully a week or two? And I think that's ultimately what this comes down to, because Nick Martinez has not really shown a need to be moved to the bullpen. This rotation has been one of the strong points of the Reds so far this season. Maybe you look to trade Martinez at the trade deadline, but as of right now, I think what the Reds are probably thinking is, all right, yes, Chase Burns probably is a major leaguer. He's probably ready to go right now if we need him, but we have to think long-term. And that long-term is not just years down the road, but weeks down the road. And I think that's ultimately probably what leads them to this conversation right now. Now, when we get to the trade deadline and we have to figure out where the Reds are in the conversation at that point, Maybe Nick Martinez is trade bait. Maybe an Andrew Abbott is trade bait if he continues to pitch the way he's pitched. But I think from the Reds front office perspective, they're not going to bring up Chase Burns just to have him pitch for 2 weeks before Hunter Greene comes back.
That's fine. I get the idea of not wanting to send a kid up to the big leagues when you ultimately probably are going to have to bring him back down no matter what he does from a production standpoint. But I would argue that the staff, the pitching staff, if he were to throw the ball really, really well, I guess I can to backtrack here. I know I'm going to sound a little hypocritical or whatever term you want to use here. If you were to try to convince me that maybe you want to bring Chase Burns up towards the back end of the year and you're going to try to keep him at a pitch count limit for the season, and there's a chance that you kind of give him maybe 2 weeks off from time to time while he's in Louisville, then I'm on board here. If he's going to throw what is, every 5 days or somewhat around that in Louisville from now until that Louisville bat season's over, that doesn't make sense to me. So to be clear, I don't know what their total plan is with Chase Burns, and I know the easy thing for everybody to say right now is well, look how well he's doing. They're obviously doing something right. Look, man, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but if I had Barry Bonds on my baseball team and I put him in the lineup and he hit second, he hit third, he hit fourth, and he hit fifth, it doesn't matter because I put him in the lineup at second, third, fourth, or fifth. I shouldn't get credit because he's one of the world's best hitters, okay? Chase Burns is just one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball's farm system. He's going to dominate, especially if you put him at lower levels. So as far as the whole idea of, well, they're doing it perfectly, look how great he's doing, I guess I'm saying you can miss me with that. But it'll be an interesting decision that they decide to do for Chase Burns on a couple things. One, if the Reds are in potential towards the end of the year or they're in a spot where they have a chance to make the postseason, what do they do with Chase Burns if he continues to throw the ball well, which I fully expect him to do? Two, what does it look like for Louisville in regards to his rotation? Is he going to throw every single 5 days, or is it going to be something where he's missing a start? He's missing a start, every third start he misses a start or something like that. And three, do they shut him down before the year's even over in Louisville? That's the 3 things that I'm asking myself now as I watch Chase Burns. We'll see what ultimately ends up happening with him, but it is nice to see him get promoted to another level, one step closer to the big leagues, and he is without question 100%, in my opinion, going to be on the big league roster, opening day roster of 2026. So, I guess a good segue into MILB. I know Sunday night is a night where typically the games have gotten to themselves to a point where they end tomorrow. Off day for many, except for the ACL. Craig, is there anything that you want to highlight from MILB before we jump into the who, what, when, where, and why?
Well, I'm sure Nick will do a full rundown for Reds MILB, but for those interested, I'll go ahead and do a quick rundown for those that are interested. Speaking of Louisville, Trace, we just got done talking about the Bats. They got no hit today. So shout out to the Louisville Bats. They lose 4-0 to the Norfolk Tides. 0 hits on the day. Jeimer Candelario in his rehab stint 0 for 3. The one positive, obviously, the 3 guys that potentially could contribute to the major league squad. 3 innings of no-run baseball with Yasver Zulueta, Sam Moll, and Zach Maxwell. Chattanooga, on the other hand, they win 3-2 over Knoxville. That's a final in 10 innings. Edwin Arroyo 1 for 4 with an RBI. Sal Stewart 0 for 4. Hector Rodriguez 1 for 5. Your boy Austin Hendrick 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and his 6th home run of the year.
Is he back?
High
I mean, not to cut you off.
Know.
Is he back?
I don't know.
Austin Hendrick is low key. I've been keeping an eye. He's kind of starting to make me think a little bit. I'm not going to go down the path of saying he's all the way there, Craig, but it's something to keep an eye out on.
All I'm going to say is that he was 2 for 3 with a home run today. He's hitting 250 on the year, 6 home runs, 19 RBIs. But maybe, I mean, I know that that's a guy that you're keeping an eye on. And
250 is better than 190. He's making progress. And next year he'll be hitting 340.
That's his 3rd home run in June already, and it's only June 8th. So certainly certainly seems to be hitting the ball a little bit better than he was previously. So high A Dayton, they fall 12-6 to Lansing. Carlos Jorge 1 for 4 on the day. Cam Collier again, recently back from injury, 1 for 2, 2 runs and 2 walks. The Daytona Tortugas, they fall to Lakeland 9-1. Sammy Stafuro 1 for 3. Kyle Henley 1 for 3 with a walk. And as many are, I'm sure, wondering, the ACL Reds off today. So no Sheng and Lin update for you, Trace. I apologize for that.
No, I'm a Tyson Lewis guy, to be clear. I think that's my guy. I don't know exactly. Never seen him play, to be clear. I have no clue what he looks like. All I know is that every time that the graphic pops up, Tyson Lewis is hitting balls at 110 miles an hour or more, and he's supposedly 19 or 18 or 19 years old, coming out of Nebraska, which I don't know if you know, Craig, but they don't really have good baseball weather up there. So my guess is that he's going to start to grow in to his baseball body here soon, and I am going to be that guy. Also, keep in mind, Austin Hendricks is a COVID player. My guess is that COVID's starting to kind of wear off. It's starting to get out of the system, you know. Maybe, perhaps, Austin Hendricks is a guy to keep your eye on here in a couple of years. Probably not, but we'll see. Ricky, he's a member for
corn-fed boys out there.
Yeah, Ricky, he's a leader of men. That's what he is. He's a member for 17 months. He says Trace and Craig, leaders of men. Are we back? Unlike the Reds, the show never left. Are we back is a really, really tough question. I don't know if we're back, if we're being honest, but I do know this. It is a hell of a lot more interesting than it was on Thursday, because I tell you, I mean, it's hard to fake your fandom, man. It's hard to fake your fandom. You feel like I was almost all the way out. Put it this way. As crazy as baseball is, the 162 games, right, Craig? It spans, what, 7 or 8 months. I think we can all agree on one thing. I think we all disagree on many topics. Can we all agree that if the opposite would have happened this weekend, we all would have been collectively completely out on this baseball team. 3 games, that's all it was, and 162. Maybe some would say it means nothing. But if this baseball team would have gotten swept by the Arizona Cardinals, and by Cardinals I mean Diamondbacks, I don't know where the hell that came from. But if they would have gotten swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks, we would have
switched over to the Chatterbox Bengals for a second.
Yeah, exactly. We would have been all the way out. I mean, we would have been all the way out. Instead, they sweep, and here we are, Craig. We're roped right back in.
Barely even mentioned Gino Suarez hitting 2 bombs against this Reds squad.
Yeah.
You know, if we would have lost these 3 games, everybody would be piling on Nick Krall right now for getting rid of him. Lot changes depending on the outcome of a game, Trace.
Boy, does it ever. Sure. Boy, does it ever. I tell you what, the vibes of everything, the vibes of the show, the niceness in the chat. I mean, it's just, you'd have thought it was sunshine and rainbows in the chat tonight, baby. Everybody's loving each other. We're giving them hugs, singing Kumbaya. I mean, the only thing we can disagree over in the chat tonight is whether or not what NBA team you're rooting for in the finals. So here we go. I guess we got the last thing we got is a little who, what, when, where, and why. And boy, if you don't know what's coming next, you're not a big league fan. You better know that the Ohio Cup is on the line, Craig, and we're putting our best foot forward here, game 1.
Well, Nick's throwing me under the bus here right away, because his notes that he sent me has Luis Ortiz starting for the Guardians tomorrow, but the graphic that he put together has Eduardo Rodriguez. So in for a little bit of a challenge here. I'm just going to go with Luis Ortiz because that's the notes he gave me. If it's wrong,
that's on him.
That's on him. Reds head to Cleveland for a 3-game set Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. At least according to Nick's notes, Luis Ortiz scheduled to go for the Guardians on Monday. I guess I could check Reds.com and see what they have real quick. But nonetheless, if it is Luis Ortiz, he's 3-6 on the season, 4.02 ERA. Last started at New York against the Yankees, 5 2/3, 3 hits, no runs. If Nick wants to,
it is Luis Ortiz. It is Luis Ortiz.
Okay, it is Luis Ortiz. Perfect. Yep. Well, then ignore the graphic if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, you probably won't hear this because Nick will probably re-record it, and none of this really matters. Long story short, last 2 outings for Ortiz, 11 2/3 innings, 0.77 ERA, 10 hits, 1 run, 5 walks, and 12 strikeouts. Guardians acquired him for Andres Jimenez and Nick Sandlin. Nice last name there. Signed with the Pirates as an international free agent back in 2018. Made his free agent or his MLB debut in 22. A lot of stuff that you probably don't care about. Reds, on the other hand, they're going to turn to old friend Wade Miley. We all know how his first MLB appearance of 2025 went. On Wednesday against Milwaukee, he went 2 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs. Didn't walk anybody, but also didn't strike anybody out. In 7 starts in the minor leagues for the Reds this season prior to being signed and activated, Miley had an 8.84 ERA, 5.93 ERA at AAA. Did pitch well in 2 of his final 3 starts. 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 2 Ks on May 30th, and 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts on the 20th. He's 3-4 with the 3.51 ERA and 10 career starts against the Guardians. Last pitch against them in 2023. Many of you know Miley did throw a no-hitter against the Guardians back in 2021 with the Cincinnati Reds. Last 2 starts for Wade Miley at Progressive Field, 15 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. Active Guardians against Wade Miley, 10 for 37. Santana is 7 for 15 with a home run. Jose Ramirez, 2 for 15 with a home run. Jones is 1 for 2. Stephen Kwan, 0 for 3. And Arias is 0 for 2.
All right. You know what time it is. Now, listen, some of you are going to judge me because, well, my basement's a mess. Yeah, it is. Okay, I've had a 5-year-old birthday party today. There's a lot of things going out. Shout out to Reese, birthday. Got a Reds win. Red sweep on her birthday, so that's positive. But you know what? I also, we're doing other content around here for some reason, and I know the reason why. It's because I took the camera. But I took one of the cameras that I used for this for other purposes. It is not available tonight.
Oh, man.
But what we do have is we do have the overhead shot, is what it is. There might be, let's have some fun, Gray. I mean, let's have some fun. That might be, who is that in the corner right there? That's like the Frozen character. I don't know the name of that fella, but he's down there. Oh, hold on. All right, go ahead. Who is it?
That's Olaf from Frozen.
Olaf,
yep. And then
thank you.
We got Nemo down there down in the corner.
Yep. So Olaf, Nemo, and a MacBook and some video microphone that's hanging out and a whole bunch of other random things. So fun times here at the Fowler house. Otherwise, I'm going to dunk this basketball, and we're all going to go on our merry way, and we're going to love the Reds, and hopefully our man, Wade Miley, he'll just put together basically the last performance he had in Cleveland for the Cincinnati Reds, which was, nothing more than a no-hitter. So we'll see if that happens. If it does, I'll be sure to have 3 or 4 cameras down here. Otherwise, till next time, we appreciate you. We love you. Go Reds.
Athlete